My face currently feels like I've been run through by Tom Stewart.
Puts it to the top of the square. Oh, beautiful little fist in there by Dale. Crucial centimetre moments.
He definitely has a bit of the Belcho spirit. As I have a bit of the Belcho spirit.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the podcast that may have run a little bit too far this week at a very inopportune moment. This is The Back Pocket. I'm Jack. I'm joined, as always, by Alistair.
Hello,
how are you doing this week?
Yeah, right. I thought you were going to say run a little too close to the sun.
Yeah.
I don't know why that popped into my head.
That would have worked. I imagine having that moment happen to you and doing a hammy at the same time. I think that's truly brutal.
I would like to say if I was an Adelaide fan and I was watching that game, I would have put my head through the TV.
Oh, my goodness.
Jeez Louise.
The longer it goes on, the more I'm like, I think that right in front of me guy was onto something.
He's onto something.
I
Or
think
maybe
he was-
him posting,
Yeah,
like
he
being
started it.
posted, has cursed them.
He started it. All right, maybe. If you've tuned in before, you know how this voting works. If you haven't, we give a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 vote to the best defenders of the week based on defensive efforts, spoils, contested defensives, vibes, anything like that. Maximum 10 votes available each round. Alistair, who's your one vote?
My one vote this week is going to defender in a losing team, GWS Giant, Harrison Himmelberg.
Himmelberg, I rate that.
Just some stats for the defender here. He had 30 disposals, 19 kicks, played predominantly back half, had a little bit of a stint on the wing. He had 9 intercept possessions. He went at 83% with only 2 turnovers. 11 pressure acts, 575 metres gained, 6 rebound 50s, 7 1%ers. No idea how many of those were spoils. And he had only 4 of his 30 disposals were from kick-ins.
I'm going to guess all. Most of the time, unless there's a rush behind, it's all spoils these days, I think.
I'm just looking. I've got the stats right here. I'm looking at it for once. Harrison Himmelberg had 7 spoils.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
that
pretty
makes
good.
Yeah, it's fair. Of one of his teammates, I learned that they call Sam Taylor Slammer
That's
at
good.
the Giants. That's a great nickname.
And while I'm looking at those stats, I'm surprised he even got 4 kick-ins, considering Lockie Whitfield took 14.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Bulldogs gave them a lot of options. That must be when Lockie was on the bench, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's the only option. The Bulldogs could have won that game by so much.
Yeah, Geelong. Giants should be a little embarrassed.
It's a huge game this week, that one. But
Yeah.
we'll get to that later. My one this week was to Dan Houston.
Yeah, fair enough.
He got 8 coaches' votes, which, while I love defenders getting votes, I feel like Butters and Horn Francis were robbed for not getting, the 8 and 10. But Houston, 22 disposals at 81%. 6 of those were intercepts. 10 of them were contested. 8 marks in the wet, which was the most on ground. 2 of those were intercepts, 2 contested. He had 2 spoils, 5 rebounds. 1 is only 1-on-1. Had 19 defensive half pressure acts, 10 tackles, 485 metres gained, and 5 score involvements. He was enormous for them, especially when the game needed to be won. So, Dan Houston. There was a long time where I felt like he was a real wishy-washy. You'd see him have a good week and a bad week, but he is just reliable now. He's a genuinely good halfback.
I'm very excited to go for my 2, so we're just going to breeze over that to 2. My 2 is going to a North Melbourne player.
Oh, okay.
It is going to Aiden Core.
Aiden Core. All right.
Core.
He got coaches' votes a couple of weeks ago, and I remember watching that game being like,
There's arguably a 1 voter on him from coaches' votes. Cole Langford kicked 1 goal.
Which is pretty good
And
considering...
was reasonably ineffectual. Peter Wright got off the handle, but that wasn't Aiden Core's job. He was there locking down Kyle Langford. His stat line leaves a lot to be desired. So I'm talking 8 disposals, 4 kicks, 4 marks, 2 intercept possessions. We're not talking big numbers here. 130 metres gained, but he did have 8 1%ers, and he did a really good job on Langford.
Locking down a man who's in form.
Yeah, Langford could have torn them apart, and it's a win that they didn't, and that they only lost by, 40 points, under 40 points?
That was their best game this year.
Probably, which is really upsetting. But yeah, I think as much shit as we give Aiden Core recently, he played a really good role.
I watched that at Dad's house, and yeah, it was one of those ones where they really looked like they were fighting for a change. And like you say, much as we get Aiden Core, he is now an old man in a team that must be very frustrating to be playing in now that Ben Mackay's gone. So it does make a bit of sense. My 2 votes is to newcomer alert, Luke Nankervis.
Never had votes.
Never had votes. I mean, he's only played this year.
A bunch of those
from Adelaide. That
rookies
mishmash
again.
backline has done a great job. He had 20 disposals at 80%. 7 of those were intercepts and 7 contested. He took 11 marks, 3 intercepts, 2 contested. He had 3 spoils, 5 rebound 50s, won 5 of his 6 one-on-ones, 5 score involvements, and 3 of them were launches. Equal best on ground for launches with Nick Dacos. So, well done, Luke Nankervis.
Probably a little bit more accurate than Nick Dacos.
His disposal efficiency was a little better. But yeah, he was the one that they've been playing ahead of Curtin that's been annoying Adelaide fans. But I think he's been pretty good as a third tall running half back kind of player.
So that's definite votes to Keane, definite votes to Worrell, definite votes to Nankervis now. We gave Bourla's votes last year.
We just need Curtin to come in and play some good
Curtin
games.
needs to play some, and we could probably give some to Butts. He's been in decent form too. So those Adelaide, they're spreading it around.
Actually been quite good.
You can't win the Silvani Scarlet Medal that way.
It's one of our better rated backlines on the system as well. So.
Interesting. Well, no votes to Adelaide from me this week. My 3 votes is going to Carl Amon.
Carl Amon, very close for me again this week after I gave him votes last week.
I enjoy that we are having different opinions. So Carl Amon, let's just go through the stats. 26 disposals with 23 of those being kicks. 5 marks. His heat map is just a wall, like dots.
Had really good disposal efficiency as well. I think he had 11 rebounds.
92%. I'm getting there.
Sorry, yeah. I was very close to having him in my vote, so I had a good look at him.
I don't know why I can't find the rebounds all of a sudden. Anyway, 18 pressure acts, 719 metres gained, 11 rebounds, 4 1%ers. He did have a few kick-in play-ons.
Yeah, but good game, Carl Amon, for sure.
Yeah.
My 3 votes, which doesn't match yours again, was to Darcy Moore.
He wasn't even on my radar this week, to be honest.
He had 15 disposals at 86%. 11 of those were intercepts and 5 contested. He took 3 marks, 2 intercepts. He had 7 spoils, 5 rebound 50s, 4 defensive half pressure acts. Adelaide had 9 more inside 50s than Collingwood and only 1 more mark inside 50.
Yeah.
Moore really got to play his game, which, I mean, could be testament to the fact that Tex isn't anywhere near as fast or mobile as he used to be, but Moore really got to patrol that. Tex only kicked 1 goal. Good stuff, Darcy Moore.
That is good. Probably should have put more attention into that, but my 4 votes is to friend of the podcast, guest of the podcast, Jordan Clark.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, Jordan Clark.
That means you have the votes.
I've got
Take it away.
Got the stats. All right. Jordan Clark had 29 disposals at 82, almost 83%, which, considering someone whose biggest fault has always been their kicking, awesome.
I've seen him kick for goal.
5 intercepts, 4 contested, 8 marks, 3 spoils, 8 tackles, 8 rebound 50s, 8 defensive half pressure acts. That's a lot of 8s. 723 metres gained, 2 score involvements and 1 launch.
I heard he loves an 8.
He was really good. Jordan Clark, friend of the show.
Yeah, one of my niece's favourite players, and I think it's not because of the way he's played. I think they think he's hot.
Yeah.
So, good on you, Jordan.
He
Clark.
very much has
there are some
bad boy from a boy band.
There are some 16 and 17-year-olds super into you.
I wouldn't say that too loudly around footballers. Who's your 5?
I don't remember. Okay. We did actually talk about this before. My 5 votes is to Tom Barrass from the West Coast Eagles.
Yep. And my 5, obviously, is to Jeremy McGovern. But do you want to do the votes for Barrass first?
No, you go first because I'm looking them up as we're playing.
Right. Jeremy McGovern had 23 disposals at 82 and a bit %. 9 intercepts, 5 contested. He had 8 marks. 6 of those were intercepts, which is pretty impressive. 2 contested. 4 spoils, 10 rebound 50s, 6 defensive half pressure acts, 542 metres gained, 3 score involvements. 2 of those were launches. West Coast looked good when McGovern looks good this year.
Yep. Tom Barrass, on the other hand, had a more low-key game. 15 disposals with 10 kicks. Went at 93%, 100% defensive half. 8 intercept possessions, 10 pressure acts, 2 rebound 50s and 8 1%ers, which I imagine are mostly spoils.
Yep.
Can I say the same thing? West Coast looked better when Tom Barrass is playing good.
Absolutely, especially because he missed a couple of weeks and they looked very shaky without him there. I'll remove the top 2 from my special mentions because they were in your votes, and that was Amon and Barrass.
The other special mention I have down here, and I couldn't give him a vote, and it's purely biased, is Braden Maynard. He played a good game.
He did play a really good game. I think
That's
he
all
had
I'll
10 intercepts
say.
or something as well, so it was a good game. unfortunately. My other special mentions this week were Mac Andrew. I just wanted to put him in there for his first half. If he didn't go off injured, I think he would have got votes this week, despite how big that margin was. It seemed like every time they kicked inside 50...
And even just when he was near the ball, he would get it, and then every Geelong player would mysteriously disappear or slip or fall.
The pressure was rather low. Liam Jones, I said big game, but Mark Moore, please. There was a couple of times he double fist spoiled.
He flies for the spoil.
For no reason. Nick Newman, Dane Rampy, Brody Kemp, Luke Ryan, and then
Kemp had some good
almost
moments.
in there with his lower disposal game as your pick was Alex Pearce, who had 9 disposals at 100%, and 8 of those were intercepts and 7 contested. So
Damn.
he didn't touch the ball unless he needed to.
Good on you, Alex Pearce.
All right. Quick thoughts on the weekend's games.
Oh, yes. All right. Fine. We can do this.
Gold Coast Geelong.
God, that was the longest game I've ever watched.
Oh my God. No, I know why they want to make them shorter now, because that was long. It was
Seriously?
almost a whole extra quarter played.
It was almost like propaganda. It's like they specifically told Gold Coast and Geelong to have a game that goes that long to make
with like
me
a million
think
stoppages,
we need
injury
16-minute
time,
quarters.
and lots of goals.
Because I'm for it now.
After just that game.
Yep.
Sydney Carlton.
Another reason I would like shorter quarters, because I would have had to watch less of that.
Warner's good.
Warner and Heaney in that midfield is insane, and they are... Are they peaking too early? Maybe, but
Maybe.
they're going to be really tough to beat.
They are scarily good. I doubt they'll lose at home this
They
year.
will play their entire final series in Sydney, and then all they have to do is win one game at the MCG.
They get an away team as well. That'd be...
Yeah. If they get a Collingwood, they might be in trouble, but if they get one of the other interstate teams... Or
GWS.
Essendon, they'd probably beat Essendon at the G.
I don't know. I barely see Essendon winning one final, let alone 2. Collingwood, Adelaide.
Adelaide robbed 3.0.
Third time in a row. Not just third time in a row. Incredible. Yeah, bloody hell. GWS Bulldogs.
The Bulldogs should hire a different goal-kicking coach. Did you say it was Brad Johnson?
Get him
Fire
out.
him.
Get him out. Jamari Uhagan has literally forgotten how to kick.
But
We backed in Aaron Norton the whole time, and he's probably been best on ground or close to it 3 weeks in a row. All this talk was stupid. It was too early in the season for a very consistent footballer.
I'm happy for people to be swapped down back, but he doesn't need to be.
The Melbourne should offer them a first round pick and him a lot of money. St Kilda Fremantle.
Surprisingly, one of the most boring games of the round was
What a
actually
shock.
okay.
Our mentions have been a little quieter from St Kilda fans after the 2 games in a row.
It's not looking good for Ross, but I've seen a lot of the journalists, the media, defending him, saying he came in to enact a 5-year plan. That is not where St Kilda were at.
Nope.
Not at all. 5-year plan does not include Jack Steele. Does not include Tim Embry.
Brad Hill.
Yeah,
Seb Ross.
they've brought in experienced players alongside youth. They should be pushing for finals.
Yeah.
They're not.
Brisbane Richmond.
Poor Richmond.
My God. As if they couldn't already take a break. They got more injuries in that and the VFL.
It's almost like years and years of Richmond fans bragging on the internet has finally come to bite them.
It's so sad that I can't even bring myself to make snarky remarks, because it's just depressing.
I feel bad. And then you see a player get
Saw
injured.
Brody fronting up to Channel 7 interview after the game. I was like, that's stiff. Imagine having to talk after that game.
You see an injury happen on field and you just go, oh, fuck.
Another one. I saw Naismith limping off in the VFL on the weekend. And I'm
Yeah.
like, really?
Apparently he did something with his
ACL.
knee. It is confirmed. Rip.
Essendon North.
Yeah, Essendon should have won by more.
North hung in there, but mostly because Essendon were not doing what they should have been.
Yeah.
No Parish probably hurt them a little bit. It shook up, especially that close to a game. Your plan is to have him as your at least second main inside mid.
Yeah.
Port Hawthorn.
Well, I heard you scream robbed.
I believe they were robbed.
I just want to
but
say that Darcy Byrne-Jones goal was
incredible. And Zach Butter's last quarter was nuts. As much as I think they were robbed because of their holding the ball decision that was not, their decision to try and defend the whole last quarter was so stupid. It is terrible coaching. From someone who I think is a good coach in Sam Mitchell, that was awful coaching, and it lost them the game.
I wonder if you thought that was the only way they could possibly hold on.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't have the juice in the tank to
Maybe,
play
yeah, because they're
further.
such a young team and a lot of their players are back from injury, no fitness, but rough.
Yeah.
West Coast, Melbourne.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Feels good.
It's not going to feel good when West Coast are actually good again, but it feels nice at the moment.
I feel like they've spent so long at the bottom And I
They
know
deserve
3
something
years
nice.
isn't a lot of time, but being that bad for 3 years feels bad. I know that. So
If North started winning games, I'd feel good for them too.
yeah, exactly. So I
And
am.
the excitement's there. Like they're building something.
Yeah, I don't even think Hewitt's playing yet, is he?
No, he's
So their
out till
future
after the
midfield
bye.
is there. So
Yeah.
if they can keep that trio together, Genvy's looking good. Obviously, Reed is
And then Kelly and Yo
freak.
is your two older boys in there.
Yo's being bandied offers from
And
other clubs apparently.
They'll get another top 5 pick this year as well to really,
Yeah.
hammer it home. So
I wonder if they pick a key back
a
with
defender
that.
with Barris being injury prone and
McGovern being old,
Yeah.
but they've got Bazo and they've got is it Harry Edwards who's the defender?
Edwards, but he's too busy punching blokes in the waffle to be able to play consistent games. Unfortunately,
It doesn't help, but I mean, is he getting a game over either of those two right
No,
now when
God,
they're
no.
fit?
Pops.
I knew you were going to say Pops and flops.
And
Pops, Darcy Byrne Jones goal. Pop, Harley Reid goal.
Yeah.
And then I would say Pop, just Chad Warner.
Yeah, I had West Coast win and Reed goal.
Yeah.
Butters final term
Yeah.
and Technicolor whale.
Oh, I loved the Technicolor
I
whale.
want to see him again.
I hope if we see him next week, he's smoking a cigar.
I love that. Like everyone's always like, man, camera work at the SCG is terrible, and this week we're like, what is that camera doing at the SCG?
Wait, there's a whale?
I thought I was seeing things the first time, and then moments later, there it was again.
Oh yeah, like we gathered the family around to wait for the whale.
Come back in here. Flops.
Flops, Geelong.
Yeah,
Flops, Carlton.
yeah,
And then my third flop is just going to be Melbourne.
yeah.
Keep it simple this week.
Mine were everything about Rankin's last 30 seconds for him personally.
That's
that-
a personal flop.
Rough. St Kilda and GWS.
I think GWS are on a real downward slide, but they have a chance to win it me back, so I'm not flopping them here. St Kilda is just a perennial flop, so
Yeah.
you can it's like the Leon Davis medal of
When Geelong lost by that margin, I went, they'll be down to 6th or 7th at the end of this round.
Yeah,
And
they
they
got
are
lucky.
third.
they got lucky.
Everyone else just couldn't do it around them. Port lost all their percentage because it was close. Melbourne lost to West Coast. GWS got belted by the Bulldogs. It all just slid.
In my brain, I don't see the ins that they could have had for that game changing it that
No,
much.
I
Jeremy Cameron obviously is a freak, but he's not winning. He's not changing that by 64 points. Sam de Koning, unless he was working miracles, he would not be marking and intercepting the way he normally does on that ground.
Especially in that weather.
Hawkins
isn't
just
giving
in
enough.
general this
I
year
mean,
has
he
been a
would have probably
flop.
marked those balls Neil dropped, but
Probably, but it's just not.
yeah, they're not winning that game even with a full
Nope.
team.
No. Maybe they up it by 20 points.
Yeah, I
at
think it
most,
might get
but,
closer.
Yeah, even just letting 164 be kicked against you as well.
And the interesting thing was, I think the weather did play a lot of part in it when you
Yeah.
look at the fact that Geelong won the inside game.
I'm telling you, man, if all they had to do was tape up their wrists.
They won the hit-outs. Well, I mean, their energy, like how tired they were. Because they won hit-outs and
Yeah.
clearances and contested possession, which they haven't done much this year, any of those three stats.
But that's the thing. Geelong's game has been winning it back off with
yeah,
pressure.
and they just weren't able to get the pressure on, and Gold Coast just ran free as soon as it got out.
I wonder if that also might have been a tactic from Gold Coast to let Geelong get the ball
Yeah.
first because they're not experienced with what they need to do with it.
Yeah,
And I mean, Cam Guthrie getting subbed off is brutal.
brutal. And then Clark coming on and having more impact in a quarter and a half than Guthrie had in the rest of the game.
If you're listening to this podcast, Chris Scott, please play for Jai Clark for a full game. Just give him a full game.
I know you don't like boys called Jay Clark, but please. Not
Just
the
do
guy
it.
on the, what is it, Triple M radio? He probably doesn't like him either, but
I don't know who that is.
he's a radio host.
Who listens to Triple M?
Oh, not me. I just
Rock's
know he
footy.
exists because I keep seeing things like Jay Clark says. I'm like, who the fuck's Jay Clark?
He
Anyway.
sent me that. Have you seen the Sam McClure bit where he has to backtrack the Harley Reid?
No, he said it, he doubled down.
He backtracked. He
He
said, I
doubled-
got it wrong.
No, he said that he should be in Melbourne this year.
He
West
did
Coast
say
should have
that.
traded those picks.
He says that, but he said, I got it wrong, which from Sam McClure.
I do get a little bit of joy from the fact that probably every Monday morning his inbox is full of people laughing at him.
But yes, the entitlement of a journalist to say this player should be playing in Melbourne as if playing in WA is not as
Yeah,
good is
wild.
ridiculous.
Um,
I support a Melbourne team, but I live in WA. Football here is still real football.
Yeah. The crowds here.
He'll play in Melbourne
Also, you want to talk
every
real
second
football?
week.
West Coast have been shit forever, and their crowds are better than teams who are shit for 1 year. They still get 40,000 there every week.
Melbourne are a supposed premiership contender and they don't get...
St Kilda want to play at the MCG and they couldn't get 20,000 at Etihad.
Yeah, it's...
Marvel. It's been so long now. I'm still calling it.
Docklands.
Docklands. That's what I write on the notes.
Of course you do. 'Cause you're a freak.
Which big footy board? I don't have quiz questions
Oh,
for
I've
you.
got
so
a big footy board for you
I've got two big
too.
footy boards for you. No quiz questions.
All right, good, because I get freak out if I get the quiz question wrong.
Don't care much about what happened after halftime, but again, when the game was on the line, we gave up multiple goals, and when we had the chance going inside 50, we butchered it. Our ability to arrest momentum and capitalise and let other teams capitalise on ours has been terrible these last few weeks, and it's inexcusable.
I would say GWS, but they don't have any fans.
You're right. We could have had one angry fan, but it wasn't GWS.
I'm blanking on that one.
It was Geelong.
Interesting. They have been
It was a
bad for
very
a few
cranky
weeks,
Geelong
so
fan.
there we go.
And at my second one, very short, very simple. Trash recruitment for years. We're becoming a retirement home for duds.
Oh, okay. Let me think. Hold on.
Melbourne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I thought about putting together like a master sheet of all the Port fans commenting at 3/4 time about
That the
how
game
they
was
sacked the
over?
coach and the season's dead. But I didn't do that.
I got one where a poster said, and I will redact the actual name, but it says, "It looks to me that coach is a soft leader, soft player, and came from a loser culture.
Oh my god.
Nobody is going to play for this bloke. He's a gimp."
Ruse?
Yeah, it's about Adam
Ruse.
Ruse.
Wow. That's incredible to me. I don't know who could coach that list right now.
You could bloody pull someone from the grave.
You could get like Lee Matthews, Chris Scott, and Paul Roos to team up in the coach's box.
Have Kevin Sheedy somewhere in the
yeah,
background
Sheedy's
pulling
there.
strings.
Choco Williams is also there as the like coaching manager, and I still think they'd lose almost every game. You can't do anything with that list.
No.
You can't even rest blokes that are tired. Like they've got old blokes in that team, like a lot of over 30s running around in that team that, with a full year, would have taken a rest by now, and they can't.
They want to rest Dustin Martin so he can play at the MCG for 300. How? How are they going to do that?
Too bad he's playing. There's no one fit.
Yeah.
Even Nate Kalina's injured.
Oh, I would love him to get a debut.
Me too.
It's like I was thinking this week. Obviously, Mark Pitnet is injured, and there was rumours about TDK. I was like, are they going to have to play the never played an AFL game American Ruckman or whoever it is on our list? Like,
There's a lot of hype about
football injuries are insane right now.
Will Phillips for Collingwood. And it's really funny how they're like, oh, he was playing cricket like just last year. It's amazing that he's already playing his first AFL game. He only got signed on at the start of the year. And I'm like, he was averaging 25 a game in his draft year and chose cricket. He was a first 2-round pick guaranteed. He just chose the wrong sport. It's not amazing he's playing. He was really good.
But yeah, did you read the stats that it's the most injuries that the AFL has had
Yes,
at round 10 in like
I
the
did.
last
And
X
they're
amount of
talking
time?
about the game length and whatever, and I'm like, no, I think it's the fact that you started the season 2 weeks earlier.
I think they need a longer break.
Players don't have long enough to recover. And then also they spend the whole of their pre-season, the whole time off, running fucking time trials and shit.
Yeah.
Like, they need more time away from the game.
I do think quarters should be shorter.
More in-season buy rounds as well.
If I can spend less time watching my team lose each week, the better.
I think we need more in-season buys.
That too. I think everyone should get 2 buys.
Yeah. And not just because there's the start of the season.
Just
week
make
early.
one. Just give everyone a buy round 8, and everyone a buy round 16, and we don't have to fuck around.
Easy as you
It
go.
is so. It is fine to not have eyes on your
Yeah,
sport for a week.
I know.
People aren't going to forget AFL exists. People are going to be like, oh,
Yeah, but
shit.
That's like the AFL. biggest
GWS
fear.
aren't playing St Kilda at Marvel Stadium this week. I'm going to kill myself. Settle down, AFL.
Also, that GWS crowd was terrible. If you're playing your biggest rival and you get 7,000 people there, and 7,000.
Are they still giving out free tickets to GWS games, or are they too cool for that now?
Also, half of the people there were umpires.
Yeah,
The
'cause
New
they were
South Wales
appreciating
Victorian
themselves.
Umpires Association got free tickets.
Oh, so they are giving out free tickets.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, to the umpires.
I mean, if I lived near Giant Stadium and they were giving out free tickets, I'd go.
Oh yeah, I'd go if I lived near Giant Stadium. I'd go see games. But in Perth, it's different. If I was in Sydney and it was only going to cost me like $30 to see a GWS game, I'd go every weekend. But in
Yeah.
Perth, the games almost all sell out.
And they're
You
expensive.
get an awful seat and it costs you $80. Anyway, what's your game of the week for next week?
Oh, I did actually write this down on my notepad, but my notepad is in the other room, and I'm not going to get it. So let me remember. I think it has to be
Yeah.
Geelong Giants.
That's in there for me.
But my sneaky pick is Adelaide West Coast. I know it's in Adelaide.
Yeah, I've got
But I would love
goat
to see
time
West
slot.
Coast. Oh,
Goat time
shut
slot.
up.
Kuana and Walich Marawa, because they're not Wajak, which would make sense, but they're Walich Marawa and Kuana. I've got them as one of my games of the week. My other one that I actually think will be game of the week is Hawks Brisbane.
The return of Jack Gunston, legend of both clubs.
I'm riding that one. Hodgie be on the boundary for sure. No, I genuinely think that the Hawks have looked good. Brisbane are struggling.
At least Hodgie
Hawks
can
pick
hide
off
his
Brisbane
bias.
so often.
Yeah.
It's very odd. All right, so ran a poll. You voted in it. How many teams there should be?
Oh, yeah.
Got exactly 100 votes, interestingly. So I know
Nice.
exactly how many people voted in
We
each
were
category.
doing not Price is Right, what is it? Family Feud.
Yeah,
It'd be good. 100 people voted.
100 people voted. 20 teams was the overwhelming majority of how many they wanted. So people want the extra team after Tasmania. 16 was second. I did disgustingly learn that of all of you people who voted in that, 14 of you want 22 teams, and I am greatly disappointed in all of you.
Saw someone say they wanted 23.
Too many teams. No, what? No. A bye every week?
I mean,
maybe it gives the players a rest. Anyway, I think that 16 is still the best number of teams, but I was thinking about how people always talk about disbanding weaker sides, and I think, I had a look at the numbers, and GWS and Gold Coast are never going to go anywhere because the AFL wants them in growth states.
yeah.
The weakest club outside of those in terms of membership numbers in North Melbourne, if we were comparing to rugby, which is the AFL's metric and who they want to beat, North Melbourne would be the second most popular team in the NRL. St Kilda would be comfortably first.
Yeah.
You're not getting rid of teams with that many fans.
I just also think there's a history. You can't do it anymore.
I agree, but if they've got 50,000 members when they're struggling, that means that there are probably at least 100,000 people Australia-wide who support that team.
Yeah.
You can't do it anymore. And as much as I think we've got too many teams, we're stuck with them.
Yeah.
If you started from scratch, you'd probably have 2 or 3 less Victorian teams and more spread. But it's been too in deep. Or maybe the better plan would have been to move existing sides like Sydney initially, rather than trying to make Brisbane and then doing the weird Fitzroy thing and that kind of stuff. But I think we're just stuck where we are now. It's too hard to move it.
And there's also the fact that it all depends on who's shit at the time.
Yeah.
Who was shit in 2010, 2011 when it came time to move those sides.
Yeah.
I don't have it off the top of my head, but it certainly wasn't St Kilda.
Well, St Kilda or North.
And that was the brief period where
North
Carlton
making
jumped
prelims.
back into the 8. Essendon made finals around that time.
Yeah, there was a season I looked at when I was looking into the can you win a flag if you beat Gold Coast numbers?
Yeah.
And the answer so far is no, but you can lose a flag, which 2 teams have done in the last 2 years. But there was one year it was Essendon, because the teams that lost to them were Essendon, Carlton, and Collingwood. I was like, surely they didn't all make finals. They did, yeah, that's 2011 or something. They all made finals that year.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So 2012, first year the Giants were in.
That might have been the year.
Melbourne were 16th and won 4 games. Western Bulldogs were 15th and won 5 games. Richmond,
And they both won flags.
Essendon and Carlton were just outside the 8 that year with 10, 11 and 11 wins. So
And you're not getting rid of any of the big 4.
those aren't happening, but Bulldogs and Melbourne were at the bottom there. That was obviously probably Melbourne's worst period.
Kneeled, yeah.
And the year before when Gold Coast came in, Melbourne got 8 wins that year, Richmond got 8. All of the other Melbourne teams we mentioned were 10th and above. So it would be Melbourne would have been the choice, and I don't think you can move the oldest club in history.
No, the literal oldest football club on earth.
So that whole idea, we don't have a team that is as financially dire as Fitzroy,
No.
or performance-wise.
And that's how the bargaining model works now anyway. The AFL won't let teams die. They put the funding back into them, and most clubs are mostly self-sufficient. I found just a side note, I found the Tom Stewart doom and gloom very funny. It was such fantasy football trying to win a hat guy bullshit. He had the round high intercepts and the 6th highest rating points of any defender in the comp this week.
Oh, you didn't give him votes though.
No, I didn't. But he didn't play a bad game. He just didn't mark the ball.
People just care too much about fantasy.
Gross. He was fine. He was bad last week. Well, not even bad. He still had the most intercepts on the ground, but he was fine. There is a lot of chat about the Pies midfield this week against Freo. I think what is interesting about it, though, is Freo have been a very dominant midfield this year. They have almost 10 more clearances a game than their opposition in every game, which is number one. They've got the most differential points. They only average less than a goal more than their opposition per game from stoppage.
Yep.
So it will be interesting to see that even though they will have probably the best advantage they've had this year, whether they can make it work. They've only had 2 goals from each Fife and Brayshaw and none from Sarong. So it's 4 from 3 of their main mids.
Hayden Young kicked.
Hayden Young's kicked 6 and Sharp. 3 and Sharp's kicked 6.
Okay.
So they're helping, but Sharp's a wing, obviously. But,
Yeah, wings are more likely to kick goals.
they're not putting much input on the scoreboard.
No, and I don't think they get enough involvement from those players.
No, so that'll be the test for Freo. I think that obviously Collingwood still, despite their injuries, have a lot of quality on the field. But if there's a time to pick them for Freo, it's now, and they need to do it for their season. They'll be back in the finals race if they win that game comfortably. Collingwood's back in the mix if they lose.
Did you hear the Tom Hawkins rumour? Retiring mid-season so that Geelong can pick up their mid-season draft target, the 50-year-old.
Oh, yeah, they're going to pick up, yeah. He'd fit right in.
What's his name? I was going to call him Phil Walsh, who we talked about him last week. We know you hate Phil Walsh.
Jesus Christ.
Phil Brown. 50 years
very
old,
funny.
nominated for the mid-season
Good on
draft.
him. We should nominate.
Honestly,
AFL
how good would it be like, see you, Jack, no more podcasts. You're off
sorry.
to Adelaide. You're playing for Port now. Have fun hanging out with those lads.
Oh, imagine if I became best friends with Jed McEntee. Could you imagine? Like if I met him,
He's
just
like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I used to do digital marketing and had a podcast. Like, oh, I should listen to it.
No,
And he just,
please don't,
it's just,
Jed.
oh, mac and cheese is so fucking shit. Or worse, you have to play next to Lewis Melican.
McEntee instead. No, I'm all aboard the Lewis Melican train now. This year, I've said it earlier. I've given him a few special mentions. I've changed my tune. He's done a full colo. He has become a reliable key defender, especially in the absence of McCartney.
Helps when they're flying.
They are
literally flying.
He's under a lot less pressure than he used to be, but he looks steady. Yeah.
Yeah, eat your words. You're going to be a mac and cheese fan in no time.
Oh, I will not. I saw people being like, and now all the McEntee haters are going to have to accept the fact that his tackle caused that goal at the end of the game. I'm like, Darcy Byrne-Jones put through a fucking, Soccer World Cup back
Yeah, it was
net.
so good.
Unless Darcy Byrne-Jones is there, McEntee's tackle means nothing because a Hawthorn player is just going to punch that over the line. Byrne-Jones' freak of nature goal.
No, it wouldn't have. They won by a point.
It would have been... Oh, yeah, they would have lost by 4.
Yeah, they would have lost by a point.
Yes, McEntee laid a tackle. Well done. He should be laying more than 2 a game. It's nothing against McEntee personally. It's just one of those things where I don't understand how he's getting a game when there's blokes who probably should be there.
Mid-season draftee, McEntee. Could
He
be
is
looking at you.
one of the more successful.
There's going to be a new McEntee for you in just a week or two's time.
Well, I mean, most of the mid-season draftees are pretty good.
We'll see about that.
Yeah, we'll see. And there's that, I can't remember his name. I knew who he was when I saw his name. He plays centre-half forward in the Waffle that North are apparently looking at picking up. There's also some Tasmanian kid who apparently is very close to the mark, so who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I think my team have 2 picks and I have no clue what they're going to do.
I don't think Geelong have one.
They're going to retire Hawkins
Adelaide
to
have
pick up
2.
their 50-year-old.
But
there's a couple of teams with long-term injuries.
Brisbane would have heaps, right? They've got long-term injuries out the
Yeah,
wazoo.
it depends. Because the thing is, are you just picking them up for the year or are you picking them up long-term?
Yeah.
Because if you pick them up long-term, you have to delist a different player.
Yes, yeah. I mean, the most successful one's Sam Durham, right? I think in recent times, he is.
I mean, John Newcomb is the best mid-season
That's true. But
draftee.
they had to change the rule because of that one.
But no, we went through the list of the one of the mid-season drafts.
2019 or 20 was just a phenomenal mid-season draft. I think both of those came in that draft.
And the players that are playing and debuting this year. And I think the SSP has been successful too.
Yeah, I think they're really good initiatives. I don't like a mid-season trade period. I think that's stupid.
Oh, can you imagine breaking out the fossils for trade radio to listen to for 2 weeks in the middle of the season? The only way for me a mid-season trade works is if they do a full buy and no one plays.
Yeah.
Because the excitement / talking about mid-season draft and trade period at the same time would take away from the games.
As the AFL learned as soon as they did a slight investigation into how it would work. There are 10 teams located in or around one city, and they do not want to move their families in the middle of a season, which means the only people who want to move would be moving around or to Melbourne. Terrible idea.
You could also, like, even if you limit it, like, it could only be people under a certain age limit, or people who are on 1 year contracts or
less
something.
than 5 games in the first half of the year or something.
Like,
I don't know. I don't like it. It's a bad idea.
It's there's so many permutations. People just go, oh, do it like basketball. Basketball's a different fucking sport where they get paid a lot more money.
Yeah, and also a sport where you only have 10 people playing each week and 5 on the ground, and one person can change an entire team.
Yeah.
I think that we've
You can
talked about
sell
how,
them.
like how Reed has changed West Coast fortunes,
Yes.
but more importantly, they've been mostly injury-free this year, and we've talked about how McGovern has played, and how Barris has played, and Yo has played more games this year than probably the last 2 combined. Jinby's come on another year. Like there's a lot of other things. Waterman, obviously, is another part of it. Like
when Oscar Allen's back and those two, like, they found their darling replacement.
there's so much more going on.
They don't need to worry about that now.
Than just Reed's there. But Reed's there helps. He is so good. Did you see that list of quickest number of games it's taken to get to a Goal of the Year nomination, 10 coaches' votes, and a Mark of the Year nomination?
Yes, Ben Rock.
And Ben
right?
Rock took 8 games to get them all. And then the rest were like Nat Fyfe and Gary Ablett and like a bunch of genuine stars, and then Ben Rock.
Anthony
played-
Scott's back this week.
Is he?
Sorry. Yeah.
Who played a handful of good games.
Bevo boy. Sorry, I got excited about that.
It's funny, like we've obviously done our fair share of knocking Bevo. But
I just opened the AFL website. Sorry, I just have to cut in. And I was like, I wonder if there's any news I wanted to talk about. And obviously there's the Luke Parker ban, which we can talk about in a minute
6
after you
weeks.
talked about Bevo. But there's just an article that says, why robots and virtual reality could be the future of coaching. Pay assistant coaches more money,
let clubs pay
and the
assist-
quality of the game will go up.
let clubs pay as coach.
Don't fucking do virtual reality
Double the
AR
soft cap.
bullshit. Yeah, seriously.
I was talking to someone, one of my co-workers used to work at Adelaide, and she was saying about how most people who work at football clubs are just aware they're not going to get a pay rise because the soft cap is just so stringent that you might want to bring on a new staff member next year, and if you've given other people a pay rise, you can't bring on that staff member. Insane. But I was going to say, we obviously we've been tough on Bevo, everyone has, but it's really funny that he doesn't get plaudits for like putting Ed Richards in the midfield to replace Libba has been a masterclass. They've moved their forwards out wider and it looks a lot better. Like they look like a far better team due to coaching and structural changes.
Because of how much pressure was on him.
Yeah,
He had to make
absolutely.
those changes. He was forced to.
But a lot of other coaches don't fix those problems and they go into free fall and they stay there. Whereas he's genuinely made structural changes that have helped. And I feel like after now seeing Richmond lose by 1 million in the VFL last week, that Riley Sanders starring against Richmond's VFL team didn't mean as much as it
he's
maybe.
named as an emergency this week.
Yeah.
So unless
Like-
Ed Richards, gets Tonya Harding.
I don't think that, and that's the thing, you don't drop those blokes who are performing well in the midfield. Like you're not going to bring them out because Sanders is playing well in the VFL.
And you don't ruin your,
cohesion when you're winning.
not the cohesion, but your structure to
Yeah.
do it.
Like that, they've got a genuine good team structure at the moment, and you don't want to ruin that. Anyway, 6 weeks. Luke Parker. Sydney are challenging it. They're taking it to the appeals, which makes sense because 6 weeks is
Huge.
insane. Like he didn't leave the ground or anything. He tried to put on a block. And look, you are liable for that. I thought 4 weeks was the number. I know the VFL is harsher. I thought it'd be 5, maybe down to 4 with a guilty plea. 6 weeks is mental.
It does affect his whole back half of the season.
Well, and now he has to try and get back into the team at the same time with Callum Mills, which he was already struggling to get back in.
But again, football's a fickle sport. Sydney have been somewhat blessed with injuries this year.
Yes.
That could take a turn at any
Yeah,
point.
absolutely. You lose a couple. If they just lost Heaney, like we've seen him limping a couple of times, been like, oh no.
Did you say if they or they
If they
just?
lost Heaney.
Okay, I was going to say.
No, like if they just lost Heaney.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure he was fine.
No, he's fine. But like we've seen him limping a couple of times just from knocks, and he's been fine. But we've been like, oh Jesus, imagine.
What probably will happen for Parker is back half of the year they'll rest some players.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he'll need to come in
Especially
and
if they're
steal that spot.
so far on the top of the ladder like they are at the moment. Like they can afford to rest players even if they drop a game
Yeah.
or two. Like it wouldn't be a problem for them. And
They're
they've
2
probably
games clear right now?
maybe 2.5, because they're
Oh,
Essendon
Essendon.
second.
Yeah,
so it
two-
must be 2.5. No, 2 games clear. They're 2 ahead of Geelong, 1.5 ahead of Essendon.
Okay.
because they're 9-1, Geelong 7-3.
Yeah, insane.
And Essendon. I mean, Essendon, despite the fact that they have the harder part of their draw coming up, I don't think they leave Victoria again
Ever?
for the rest of the year.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
Doesn't mean a lot though.
No, but like they're obviously not going to be playing Brisbane in Brisbane or Port in Adelaide, which was their biggest loss. They almost lost to West Coast in Perth. Their games have looked shakiest have been their away games, and they don't play another one. Sydney was that they lost their other game.
I'm still not convinced on top 4 for Essendon, but
I think
there's a chance.
they're pretty much guaranteed finals now.
Yeah.
At 6.5
Yeah.
wins at this point of the year, but I think they're going to drop from the top 4. We'll see if they should stay in for finals.
Yeah.
So I think they've got a few easy ones to come.
A lot of people are bullish on the Bulldogs since the revitalisation.
Yeah,
of Richards,
all of them like models that rate teams on their performance have them second.
Yeah.
When they're 11th on the ladder, which is crazy, but when they've looked good, they've looked really good.
Yeah.
So it will be interesting to see if they win this week against Sydney.
Lids off.
Consider them back. No Bulldogs fan would ever say lids off. They are the most skeptical and self-hating supporters that I've seen on the internet. They would be like, nah, now we're going to lose to the worst team in the comp. And you know what? Knowing the Bulldogs, they're probably right. Yeah, no. But they did look really good against GWS. But as much as I'm impressed with the Bulldogs, I am equally, if not more, concerned about the GWS free fall.
Yeah.
They have looked very shaky.
And it might even, like, they started last year poorly and bounced back.
Yeah.
So we know that they can.
Yeah.
But I think people have identified, and it's similar with Carlton as well, people have identified the strengths of the game plan.
Yeah.
GWS's run, if you can stop that from the back half, they don't win enough ball in the middle, sans Tom Green, to win games. And I think if you can get on top of Carlton's midfield, they don't have much chance because there's no transition game.
If you can put a bull on Tom Green as well,
yeah, we've noticed that as well.
he slows down.
Which is why I'm interested in the Geelong game, because there's no one they can tag him.
Yeah, do they send Blitzarves to him? Is a possibility?
Blitzarves has worked on Cripps before.
Yeah.
Atkins won't be tagging him, and definitely won't be Ocean Mullen.
No, and Parfitt is their clearance player. At
If
the
they
moment, so he's not
if
doing
they
that.
use Parfitt as a tag, I will vomit.
Chris got out.
I've been saying that for 20 years.
It's been a long time. 14 years. Christ, I haven't done anything for 14 years.
Yeah, no.
The only habit I've had for 14 years is 1, watching football, and 2, playing Pokemon.
Was that
the only
16, 14 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing both of those things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Arguably more Pokemon, less football than now. If I was watching much less games.
Stupid
I didn't
podcast.
I didn't have Foxtel, so I didn't watch every game as a kid. I couldn't. I got my 3 games a weekend, and I was glad for it.
Yeah,
I got to see my team play once a fucking month.
We did
That's not true. Geelong
back and forth.
Yeah,
I would spend one weekend with Mum, one with Dad, and Dad had Foxtel. So we watched every game, and then we watched cricket, we watched Big Bash, everything. Like, so whenever I was down there, Sport Mania, but up here it was like a wasteland.
It's brutal. Anyway, we were going to do a short episode this week, and we've done a normal length one. I thought that happens every time we say we're going to do a short episode.
I still think we should come on, do the votes, say see ya, and walk out.
Walk out?
No one
Where you
listens.
going?
No, people listen to the funny intro. They start listening to the votes and go, hold on a minute, this is a football podcast.
Football.
And then they leave.
And then sometimes they stay for Pokemon.
And then I get an angry message being like, where's Ben Mackay's
One
votes?
of my co-workers said, and I mean, I guess if you're listening to this one, Laurie, shout out, said, he said, I've listened to your podcast, does a little chuckle and goes, not a fan of Ross Lyon, huh? Don't rate him. I was like, you're so right, Laurie.
You'd think a podcast that's so heavily based on defenders would be a fan of
Ross Lyon. The
and
most
Justin
defensive.
Longmuir, but
Oh, I'm a bigger fan of Justin Longmuir than Ross Lyon.
what are the odds
Good Gubbo boy.
What are the odds that Fremantle will just get 3 super defensive coaches in a row?
In a row, yeah.
Um,
I think they beg for Mark Harvey back.
Yeah.
God, he'd probably take that team to a flag.
Probably not.
He's the one link on my Charlie Kelly
Yeah, your weird
whiteboard
board.
of coaches. He's the link from Kevin Sheedy to Chris Scott. He's the only thing that keeps that going for Chris Scott.
I mean, he's not in coaching anymore, is he, Mark Harvey?
I don't think so, no.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for joining us. As always, we will see you next week. We are almost out of Thursday games, so you might start hearing these on Friday, but you also might keep hearing them on Thursday. Bye.
See ya.